My name is Scott Isbell, and you're listening to Trumpified Radio.
Back when I was in my 20s and my 30s, I didn't have a clue. I thought I had a clue, but I really didn't have a clue. It was like, a bird hatching out of its eggshell, and I was all like dripping with egg yolk, okay?
Yeah.
And I thought I could understand the world based on what I heard on television and the news, and it's so much more than that. It's a multi-layered world, and the masters of the universe, the puppet masters, have us see what they want us to see. And I'm going to get into that a little bit later. So first, I have this ritual. I like to bash Hillary, if you don't mind.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
Where do we start with Hillary, right? She goes way back. She started way back in high school. She graduated and wrote a thesis on Saul Alinsky's Rules for Radicals. And this guy was a Marxist, okay? And he wrote a book, Rules for Radicals, and he had 12 rules. Rule number 5 is always ridicule your enemy. There's no defense for it. What's he going to do? And there's other rules. You always isolate your opponent, and you focus in on him, and you destroy him piece by piece. All these sinister ways to get at your opponent.
Right.
Now, he dedicated that book of his to the arch rebel, Lucifer. Now, you got to ask yourself, what kind of woman would write her thesis on that kind of book? Okay, what would prompt her? Like, what is her motivation? Okay, I'll leave that up to Hillary to answer it, but I think her works over the years demonstrate why she wrote her thesis on Alinsky's book. It's obvious. She does not want to play by the book. She's a rebel.
She's never played by the rules, no.
No. And there are some things that people don't want to say. They just can't mouth them. They can't enunciate them, like extreme Islamic rebels, right?
Right.
Terrorists. And we have to be able to say the word Lucifer. Okay, it's a reality. It's an entity that exists, that has enormous power, and that penetrates different individuals, different societies, especially the very rich, because the promise is always the same for him. I'll make you rich, I'll make you famous, but you know what? You got to sign the contract here, okay? And there are stipulations with that contract.
Right.
People have to give up certain things. And so I don't want to get too, sidetracked into this kind of philosophy or theology, but I'm just saying that there are consequences, and obviously we are seeing the consequences in her life right now. Her health is not good.
I saw this WikiLeaks, one of the emails leaked from WikiLeaks kind of points or hints that she could have Parkinson's.
Yeah. She's got coughing fits. There's a pit on the top of her tongue. I don't know if you've seen pictures of that.
No.
On Google. There's a pit right in the center of her tongue. It's about the size of a dime. And it looks like somebody just went in there with a scoop and just scooped up her tongue. And they picked that picture, they got that shot when she was giving her speech, her acceptance speech at the DNC nomination. They zoomed in on that. So we don't know what that is. I checked, on Google to see other pictures similar to it. And what I found is that people with syphilis have similar cankers, they're like, it just doesn't look good. You just check it out for yourselves, check out syphilis cankers or ulcers, and you'll see what I'm talking about, and they occur in the mouth. And then she's got, dizzy spells. There are pictures of her with her handler, this black guy that is holding an auto-injection syringe.
Yeah, I saw that. I think that's for seizures.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now he's disappeared. We don't know where he is. And I kind of am worried about her.
Yeah, I haven't heard much about her. I haven't looked on her Twitter, to be honest, this week. But has she? I mean, obviously, I'm sure she has pre-scheduled tweets that one of her interns puts together. But yeah, she's completely disappeared. You're right.
Right. Now, what's interesting is that here in L.A., people are posting posters of her logo. That H with the arrow. Yeah. And underneath, on top of it, it says hospital, and underneath it says this way.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, they have those on street poles. Oh, creativity. What do you want? It's LA, right? A lot of creative.
I mean, that says a lot, though. If liberal area like LA is already seeing that maybe Hillary is not only not fit to be president, but she's actually pretty sick.
She's actually pretty sick, exactly. And I think what's happening here in LA, Scott, is that a lot of these people that were all for Bernie, and it was never Hillary for them, and they just got burned out really, really, really bad. I really feel for them. My heart goes out to them, really, because the nomination was just stolen, right?
It was rigged, yeah, absolutely. It was totally, and I mean, there's no way that you can tell me that, I mean, Bernie was filling stadiums with 30,000 people, and there's no way you can tell me that of those 30,000, at least, I gotta say, at least 75% of those people there had to be voting for Bernie. So the numbers don't add up. I totally think the polls are rigged, especially today, but I think that they totally, I know Bernie never had a chance, and I truly think if it hadn't been rigged, he would have gotten the nomination. But I know from the start the DNC did everything in their power to make him look bad.
Totally. And now WikiLeaks is coming up with the truth, right?
Yep, they are. And, WikiLeaks has in the past put out some stuff that, like Social Security numbers. I don't think they should ever leak anyone's Social Security. It doesn't matter if it's Hillary Clinton or whatever. But, that's push going too far. But yes, I like what WikiLeaks is doing right now. They're showing the corruption of the DNC and Hillary Clinton. And, we're definitely in a political revolution right now, and it's exciting.
It's very disconcerting for me, because I know Bernie. I kind of like him as a guy. Okay, he seems reasonable. He seems like a nice human being. I'm not for his policies. Let's put that aside. But he seems like a nice, decent human being.
Yep.
And I think it was rigged from the get-go. I'll tell you why I think that, because there was a pivotal, crucial moment in the debates, in the Democratic debates, where he told her, I'm just so sick and tired of listening or hearing about your emails. Mm-hmm. And that, to me, told me something. It told me that he's not broadsiding her, okay? If it was Trump, if it was me or anybody else, they would have broadsided her on the emails, on the RICO charges, on Benghazi, on everything under the sun. And he has never broadsided her. He's never accused her of anything other than the fees, the speaking fees, with Wall Street. So I think maybe it was fixed from the beginning. Maybe he was just trying to hold her feet to the fire so that, some of the policies that he was enunciating would sort of rub off on her. But what I find very comical, almost absurd, it's just total lunacy. When I hear, Bernie supporters saying, now, we're going to vote for Hillary because we're going to hold her accountable. we're going to hold her accountable to her promises. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Do you think that she's really going to keep her promises?
Oh, yeah, I know. That makes no... And honestly, you know, I have a lot of friends who were big Bernie supporters, and honestly, a lot of them are just very young, and I don't think they quite understand about politics. They don't understand that. I mean, Barack Obama made some promises that if he had followed through if President Obama had followed through with some of his promises, you know, I would have, you know, that would have been great, and even I, as a young conservative, would have supported him probably. And you know, and having Hillary is going to be, I'd say, more corruption than the Obama administration, more broken promises, more money laundering, and who else knows what else is going on?
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
I mean, that's what's crazy is Hillary Clinton comes out and says Trump can't be trusted with national security. It's like, I think she's the last person on earth to talk about that. Like she's far from good at any of that, and we all know. I mean, I agreed 100%. And I think she honestly extorts and blackmailed the FBI to, you know, not indict her.
You're so right on, Scott. I mean, it's like exactly my thinking. Had Obama fulfilled some of his promises, okay, things would have been kosher. But if you look at all the economic indicators, they're all going the wrong way. Food stamps at an all-time high, home ownership all-time low, unemployment all-time high. The country is intentionally being chopped apart. It's like on a chopping block,
right?
And they're doing that for a reason. Okay, and this is where the younger generation doesn't get it. You know, there's a plan. There's a plan to introduce a global kind of concept of government, and they may have to do it the hard way because they're not getting anywhere right now. They may have to introduce other measures, like maybe a market meltdown, a world war, whatever, to create that kind of chaos, out of which it's like the old Hegelian dialect. You create a problem and then you introduce the solution. And you're the one with the solution, so everybody votes for you. And that's how it works. Ultimately, going back to Lucifer here, okay, and now we're going from ground level to 200,000 feet, I like to call it, you know, kind of zoom out. You want to zoom out a little bit and see what the heck all this is all about.
Yeah.
You know, what's the end game here? You know, what are these people up to? The end game is to introduce a one world government where Lucifer, in the form of a possessed, whoever is going to be call him the Antichrist, or whoever that being is going to be.
The supreme leader.
The supreme leader. There you go.
Sounds like a South Park name or something, but no, you're totally right, and I mean that's the problem is if we don't get Trump into office, you know, we're going down that road because we cannot have more of this corruption, and we need someone who's anti-establishment, such as Trump, and maybe sometimes he speaks his mind a little too much, and maybe he got into that habit from reality television, but you know, we need somebody who's going to be honest, and what I like about Trump is that, you know, he'd be the first to admit that he's not perfect, and we can't have another establishment person in office. I mean, even George W. Bush in office was establishment, and you know, we need to get rid of that corruption because, I mean, the whole world in general is becoming more and more corrupt, and we need to try to put a stop to it.
Yeah, there's all kinds of segues here we could get into. You know, how do we get to this point where we can admit people like Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton into the White House? That's another topic, but you know, there's a preparation. You know, the masses have to be prepared somehow and massaged in order for them to accept those kind of leaders. It just doesn't happen overnight. It takes sometimes generations, you know, like 20, 30, 40 years. But you're right, Trump, you know, he shoots from the hip. He's not scripted. He doesn't care. He is politically incorrect.
Yep.
And I'll tell you what, if he had done it the other way, like if he had become just like a run-of-the-mill politician, right, with these wonky policy speeches like
like
Bush.
Marco and Marco. I mean, I like Marco Rubio, but but Marco Rubio and everything being scripted, and you know, and remember when Chris Christie called him out for just being a scripted robot, and that's what politics has become. Is it's just
right.
It's just a disguise for something else, a distraction for something else. Yeah.
Right. So what these guys do, is they have these focus groups, and they try to figure out what the public wants to hear. Like, what is the hot issue of the day? Flavor of the week. And it depends also on the region, too, right? Depends if you're going to Atlanta or if you're going to Miami. You're going to have to give a different speech to really hone in and zero in on what people want to hear. So they do all these focus groups, and they cost hundreds of thousands of dollars to get the consultation. And then they come out and they got the teleprompters and they got the speeches already, and they just spew out what they're told to spew out. That's all it is. It's just kabuki theater. I call it kabuki theater. And people buy into it. They buy into it hook, line, and sinker, thinking, this is the real deal. They're promising us, Bernie's promising us so much. He has got to be the guy. Or Hillary, whoever you're attracted to. And at the end of the day, when they get into power, all bets are off. Because these people are being financed by the big banks, and the big banks are being financed by the super rich. And by the super rich, we're talking, we're talking the stratosphere. We're talking like the Rothschilds, and we're talking like the Vatican. We're talking, I look at America like a fatted calf, and everybody wants to have a piece of it. Everybody has got their candidates that they want to elect. So sometimes they'll bet, like George Soros, for example. He may put money on Hillary and also on Rubio and also on Jeb Bush, just to hedge his bets. He doesn't care who gets in because he knows at the end of the day, one of these guys is going to be his guy. He'll be manipulated.
Yeah, just his puppets.
Exactly. It's like I don't gamble, but if you ever go to Vegas, they have crap stables, and you can bet on different numbers, right? That's all it is. And you have to be very careful. Trump is the only guy that I've known who is just a straight shooter, and he's putting his life on the line. He's really putting his life on the line for several reasons. Number one, he doesn't want to be controlled, okay? He's not bought. He's paying his own way. He's not accountable to anybody.
Right.
He only wants to be accountable to the American people. To me, that's huge, okay? It's huge. The other reason, and I'll be frank with you, when he first came on the scene, I wasn't really 100% sure, like sold on Trump. I thought maybe this was just a passing phase. Maybe he was just trying to brand himself and then just bow out of the race at the end. I wasn't 100% convinced. But what really convinced me that this guy was the real McCoy, the real deal, when he announced that he was going to reopen the 9/11 investigation, I thought, oh man, he is putting his life on the line.
He is, because look at any time someone tries to oppose the Clintons, somehow they end up dead.
Yeah,
and I shouldn't even laugh at that, but it's true. I mean, it's like the lawyer of Julian Assange, WikiLeaks, somehow mysteriously got pushed in front of an oncoming train. I mean, this stuff doesn't happen by chance. I mean, as much as our current government would love to say, "Oh, we had nothing to do with that," and it's horrible that we the people are held to all of these laws that none of these politicians ever have to follow, and and Trump's the only one who's going to be able to change that.
Well, let me just Yeah, you're absolutely right. He's the only one that can change that, and that's what they fear. They fear that the payola is going to end.
Yep.
That this roller coaster ride they're on is going to come to a sudden stop, and the special interests are going to have to go away, and all the other lobbies will have to sort of back out. But let me go back to James Comey here in the FBI, okay? Because there's some very important information that I've been able to connect the dots. And I'm just going to read it off here to you because HSBC is still connected to the Clinton Foundation through a number of initiatives, including the building the corporate coalition project, scaling rainwater harvesting for 21st century Mexico, and also investing in management and leadership in Vietnam, and a whole bunch of other projects, okay? That's one dot. The other dot is, in 2015, in January, Loretta Lynch sits for an Attorney General confirmation hearing, and her role in HSBC is not discussed because her role in HSBC back in 2013 was to investigate HSBC for tax fraud and massive money laundering. And because the case was so huge, it would have imploded the whole financial system worldwide, they backed out. And they just slapped HSBC on the wrist with a small fine. Small fine was like $19.2 billion, about a month's earnings for HSBC. All the top executives were exonerated. And the DOJ attorney was Loretta Lynch in charge. Okay, so that was in 2013. During her confirmation hearings in 2015, not a word of that is mentioned. Now, back to 2013 in March, HSBC appoints James Comey as a non-executive director and a member of the Financial System Vulnerabilities Committee. Do you see where there's some conflict of interest here?
Absolutely.
And on top of that, the Clinton Foundation has received $81 million from benefactors with HSBC accounts. It's a very gnarly, corrupt system, and I think Comey is on the payroll. I really feel that, and also Lynch is on the payroll. I think Trump has expressed it so in so many words, that the DOJ is a political arm of the White House. There's no getting around it. So now Hillary Clinton, it looks like she wants no press conferences. She doesn't want any questions about her emails. No questions about her foundation, the DNC leaks, stealing the nomination, the pay-to-play questions. She wants no questions on her health and on Huma Abedin, who was definitely a Muslim infiltrator.
Yep.
Yeah. But here's the $64,000 question that nobody has asked her. Not Bernie, not Trump, none of the interviewers and the mainstream media, nobody. The $64,000 question is this: Hillary, if you claim that you have not sent or received any classified emails over the whole 4-year tenure as Secretary of State, then what the hell were you doing as Secretary of State? Because that was your damn job. That was your job to send and receive classified emails. So what were you doing? Knitting? Were you doing yoga? What were you doing? How can she answer that?
I think she would say, next question.
Yeah. She'll start coughing and pretend, that's the pity party defense for her. Every time she's caught in a lie, she starts coughing. Yeah. But there are so many things she's done wrong. Just transferring intelligence from a secure to an unsecure server is espionage. Instructing her staff to strip classified markings on emails is espionage. Releasing redacted documents is tampering with evidence. Refusing to release all the documents in a timely fashion is obstruction of justice. Testifying that none of the emails contain classified information is perjury. We can go on and on and on. And of course, we know that the server was hacked. So that is clearly abdication of duty and gross negligence right there.
Right. Yeah, and it's almost, what really upsets me is, and I find outrageous, if anybody else on this planet had done what she has done, they would already be in jail. No kidding. After the first offense, there'd be, we'll jail you first and ask questions later kind of thing. Right. Yeah. I don't know. She's more corrupt than her husband, I say, for sure. Yeah. Yeah, definitely more corrupt than Billy Boy. She has really no excuse. It's not like she kind of stepped into the role of Secretary of State and had no background experience. She was First Lady in the White House. Surely she must have come across, top secret documents that she couldn't lay her eyes on. Not only that, but when she was senator for the state of New York, she was a member of the Senate Armed Services Committee and also a member of the Transformation Advisory Group, which is an expert panel that advises the United States Joint Forces Command on issues pertaining to different branches of the military, which would, by necessity, include security. And also, as Secretary of State, she was what's called an original classification authority. That means that nobody above her could determine the classification of a document, whether it was papers or an email. She had the last say, final word. Yep. So for her to say, oh, you know what, I just know nothing about how this whole email classification system works, is just total BS. Yeah, that's a total BS. So other than that, I really enjoy taking time to bash her because I'm doing it especially for the 4 fallen heroes in Benghazi. They deserve at least that much. They do, and I don't even think our current president has given them the respect at all that they deserve for their service and bravery. And I think President Obama has gone to bat a million times for Hillary, knowing that the whole time she is guilty of the things she's being accused of. Yeah, he has done zip, zilch, nada. One other thing about Hillary that most people don't even know about is that she worked for Jerry Zeisman back at a time when they were doing the Watergate investigation, and he was the chief of staff for the House Judiciary Committee. Yep. And he wrote a book about all that, and he called it Hillary's Pursuit of Power. It was published in 2006. He fired her. He dismissed her without a letter of recommendation. And just a snippet here of what he said. He said, she engaged in a variety of self-serving, unethical practices in violation of House rules. So she's got a long history, a long track record of treachery and just being a bad person. Yeah. And even Barack Obama in 2008, when he had to run against Hillary for president, he said that she'll say anything, to get support, and she'll do nothing. And I'm pretty certain that still holds true to today, even if Obama won't admit that he said that.
Yeah, it's interesting that he said that, isn't it?
Oh, it's totally, and all of a sudden they're hugging on stage. It just shows the where politics is these days, and just how politics has become so corrupt. And I think politics has been corrupt for a long time, but this is the type of crimes that Hillary is involved in are honestly like. I don't put her any higher than the mafia, I don't think she has any more morals than the mafia or Whitey Bulger or she's showing what politics has become, and it is very frightening.
It is absolutely very frightening. It's I really feel for your generation, because you guys are looking at this and saying, "Oh my gosh, is this the political reality we're living in right now?" I also feel kind of disheartened because I've heard people being interviewed, millennials being interviewed, and some of them think they have a nuanced understanding of the political landscape, which tells me that they don't know zip squat.
Right.
It is kind of frightening. It is very sad to see, and it's very telling also, because what we have to ask ourselves is this: in the future, what's it going to take? Let's suppose Mr. Trump gets in and he has 2 terms in office. Okay.
Yeah.
What's gonna happen after he's done? Are we back to square one again? Are we going to have to deal with these criminals, these crooks, these sharks? Because the globalists are always going to be in the background, right? On the sidelines, waiting to get in, for a chance to get back in. And so my solution, and this is something that I really hold very near and dear to my heart, because America to me is everything. It should be like a beacon of freedom, of liberty to the whole world. And we have fought too hard and too long as a nation in wars. We had the war, the Revolutionary War. We had the Civil War. We had the Mexican War, the Spanish War, Vietnam, World War I, II, and now we got all these regional wars in the Middle East. Too many lives have been sacrificed, and we really can't afford to do this any longer.
Right.
And we have to fix it. And we all know that the weak link right now is the House of Representatives, and to a large extent the Senate, okay? Because these are the people that get corrupted so easily. They get corrupted, and once they're corrupted, they answer to their donors. They forget about the people. So what do we have to do? I mean, if the Founding Fathers were here, Scott, what would they do? What would they tell us? Because they only had so much to work with. If they saw the infrastructure we have right now, the technology, the online accounts, the internet, telecommunications, all of that, right? And they were given the task of creating a government for the people, of the people, by and for the people. What would they have done? I think what they would have done is installed, and this is just my thinking, you guys may want to think it over too, like come up with solutions, okay? This is the time to think out loud and brainstorm.
Yeah.
I think they would have given us an online secured, and I mean like triple secured, like NSA / IBM / Apple secured citizen account, whereas citizens, we could go in and check out the bills that are to be voted on and vote for them ourselves. Forget about the House of Representatives. We don't need crooked, corrupt politicians to represent us. Right. We can represent ourselves. We have a right to represent ourselves. It's our government. And we can still have a president, but if he screws up, if he goes AWOL, we can impeach him right now. We can just create a motion and vote on it as people. And then we can, ratify constitutional amendments. We can vote on referendums. We can do all these things. And we can forget about the two-party system because that's just an illusion. That's just a fabrication.
It is, yeah.
It's smoke and mirrors. It's causing, it's the divide and conquer policy. It's an old playbook. You have people focusing on the hate they have against each other and not focusing on the bigger issues, the bigger picture. So that would be the solution for me, is to do it very simply with an online citizen account and see where it takes us. Now, I've tweeted this idea to Mr. Trump, and I've also sent him an email, or I shouldn't say an email, but a video link. I have suspicions that he may have seen it. It may be too much at this point to implement because it would require a constitutional convention. It would have to include a lot of public debate, public discussion. And but to me, I've had 2 heart attacks like 2 years ago, and so my time is limited here. And I just have to give out the very best that I have at this point, and just put it out there and see what you guys think. What you can do with it. Because America has to come back. It has to bounce back. We need to do a lot of rethinking about how this is going to go forward after Mr. Trump leaves office.
Yep. I mean, those are all incredible points, and I think if our founding fathers were here today, one, they would be disgusted by the fact that we cater more to non-citizens and people who seek to destroy the peace and safety of our country. First off, I think that's, they'd be horrified by that, and whoever was in power would be thrown out within a heartbeat. And overall, I think this country needs to get back to the values that were put in place by our founding fathers, because they were put in place for a reason. And some might say, oh, well, what about gay marriage? It's like, we're not talking about that. We're talking about the safety of our country, and it's good for society to adapt and to be more accepting of people who are different, but we're not talking about gay rights. We're talking about people who seek to kill innocent lives, to destroy families, to go into a nightclub and shoot up people and just cause havoc. And and then after all that happened, Barack Obama comes on TV and says he's disappointed that us, the American people, don't feel safe and that we're being judged. And it's like, okay, it's easy for you to say, well, you have your 10, 15 Secret Service all the time, until he gives us each a Secret Service agent, I think our government needs to start listening to us and needs to start putting we the people first, and that's the biggest thing.
No, 100%. 100%. I mean, he's lying all the time. I mean, he just told us a few weeks ago that we never pay ransom for hostages, and now we find out that we did pay $400 million for our hostages. He's controlled. He's totally controlled. We don't trust him. I put out a little missive on Twitter to have him arrested for treason under Article 3, Section 3 of the Constitution. It takes only 2 witnesses to accuse somebody of treason. And from what I understand, there's no impeachment proceedings that have to take place. So it's an arrest warrant and 2 witnesses. Arrest them, try them, and get rid of them. So far, nobody's done anything. I've tweeted it to Sheriff Clark, Sheriff Arpaio, Donald Trump. But, you guys, the millennials out there, you need to take time. You need to take time every day, take 10 minutes a day, study the Constitution, You should be able to take a piece of paper and a pen and write down all the sections of every article of the Constitution and all the 27 amendments. You should be able to write on the timeline, the American history, what we've gone through. All these things, people don't have a clue anymore. They don't care. Of course, they're not being taught in civics classes.
That's what I was going to say. That this Common Core, it's clearly trying to throw out any type of we the people type education, and that's why Common Core's got to go, because we're not teaching today's youth why this country was founded, the positives of being a free society, and how to uphold everything that started this country. And it's scary and sad to see that the corruption is now even in our children's school systems. It's actually disgusting.
Yes, it is. I can't agree with you more.
And they don't apparently. I have a childhood friend who now is a third grade teacher, and when I was in elementary school, all the way up through whatever grades, we did not national anthem, but we did the Pledge of Allegiance every day, and apparently now that's banned in public schools.
Well, yeah, they're even trying to eliminate the word God from the Pledge of Allegiance, if you can believe that.
That's crazy.
So it's all part of a strategy. It's a huge plot to take America down, and we can discuss the economics and we can discuss the wars some other time. I think we've covered quite a bit of ground here today, and I'm not going to keep you too much longer, but I really appreciate you. I think, you're at the tip of the spear. If you can, with your music, and penetrate the millennials and just turn on the light for them, just turn on the light so they can see clearly, that would be so fantastic.
That's the goal. I have a new pro-Trump song coming out next, this coming Monday, called "In the Clear Now," and it's a protest song, in protest of how corrupt our government is, but also how corrupt the paparazzi is, the media, how biased it is, and the corruption of all the social media sites skewing things. I mean, in February I was hacked by Trump protesters. They deleted 17 million YouTube views I had. I tried to they took away my Facebook, got hacked, stolen. My Twitter was stolen. That took forever to get my Twitter back, but Google and Facebook never responded at all when I said I was hacked. These people are threatening
because they're part of it.
Right, they're part of it, and so I never got those 17 million YouTube views back, and still no response from Google, no response from Facebook, no response from Instagram, and
that's why I deleted my Facebook account.
Yeah, I don't miss Facebook, to be honest. I have not created a new one. There's a fan page up there of mine, and I don't even think I have access to it. But at this point, I don't want it.
There's word that Google and Facebook and Twitter, they're all in cahoots. They're all trying to stem free speech. So it's part of a plot, obviously. This election is not about right versus left. It's not about conservatives against Democrats. Okay, forget about that. It's about nationalism or globalism. This is the choice. This is the choice before us. Now, all the other, the candidates we've seen so far, Fiorina, Cruz, Bush, Rubio, the list goes on and on, except for Ben Carson. But all of them have been Trojan horses. They've all been... I love
Ben Carson is a character.
Yeah, so, don't get fooled. Don't get fooled. Trump is the only nationalist right now, and we've got to support him. He's got quirks, yes. He's not perfect, yes. True. But he's the real.
But you know what? Neither our founding fathers weren't perfect either. But they were being genuine, as Trump is, and they were doing what they felt was best for our country, and not for these corrupt politicians.
Totally. I mean, compared to Hillary Clinton, Trump is like an archangel. He should, the Vatican should beatify him into sainthood. How can you compare the two? There's no comparison.
Absolutely.
So anyway, I'm going to let you go, Scott. Appreciate you very much, and we'll talk soon.
Yep.
And keep up the great work.
You too, Paul, and we'll definitely do more of these recordings, because you have a tremendous amount of insight and wisdom, and the world, especially in this country, we need to hear the truth. And I mean, I can't even put on CNN or MSNBC, or I can barely put on Fox News without throwing up, because it's all so biased. And Fox is, I mean, it's all biased, and it's just, we need to put an end to it somehow. Exactly.
It's like looking at a forged $100 bill. People sometimes they can't see the difference. You have to be sort of shown what to look for.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm here for. I'm going to show you, what to look for, and hopefully others will too. So till next time, God bless, and God bless America.
Awesome. Thank you, Paul.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right. We'll be in touch. That was Paul Adams, one of my political correspondents here on Trumpified Radio. You'll be hearing a lot from him. He is a truly great asset to the Republican Party, truly great analyst, and his wisdom, and it gives me hope that we have people in this country who can see past all of the corruption and not give in to the temptation that all these politicians have. Again, this is Trumpified Radio. Visit us, trumpifiedradio.com, and we will see you next time. Bye.